This is a rough audio translation of the book series, the half-blood of its rough translation of its original unedited script. We used 11 Labs as its AI voice translator, and it had trouble saying Matthias, and would occasionally use the word Matthias or Messiah. His name is Matthias, and for whatever reason the program did not like that word. Other than a few words, it's a solid translation that reads pretty well and is a very enjoyable experience. Once we finish the first arc Origins, we'll work on a multi-voice acted, more ambitious project with perhaps more real people. If you want to support me or help out with the project, join my Ko-fi page or message me personally on Wattpad. Thank you, and God bless.
November 11th, 1918, 10:40 a.m. Parishtisti stumde yards. In the dim light of a feeble fire, shadows danced desperately, barely illuminating the room where Matthias sought refuge. Within the cold and damp cellar, his gaze fell upon a mirror. Its reflection revealed a man with hollow eyes, drained of life. His countenance, a mask of emotionlessness, emitted an eerie aura capable of piercing through the depths of any soul. Immobile, trapped within a trance-like state, the icy tendrils of the dying fire began to wrap around him. Each spark cut like 1,000 knives. Within his mind, a solemn debate raged about the purpose of traversing through existence. Do you remain human, or have you become a phantom masquerading as life? He questioned himself. For the deeds committed, do you retain the right to claim the title of man? He contemplated. He was shaken by the capacities of humanity. Nevertheless, amidst it all, he had made a pledge within this world. If anything held value in living, it would be that. The light dimmed further, nearly erasing his reflection. In a voice destined to echo helplessly through time, he proclaimed, "I shall persist as a human." And with that epiphany, he jolted back to reality. Matthias extended his trembling hand towards a nearby matchbox. His fingers quivered uncontrollably. The matches slipped through his grasp, scattering like fleeting hopes upon the floor. He battled the tremors, wrestling for a moment until his hands finally stilled. Drawing a deep breath, he made another attempt. Amidst the quakes, he managed to strike a match, his hands striving to ignite the fireplace. Yet the initial match succumbed, its frail flame devoured by the unforgiving darkness. Recollections of his son's visage whispered within him. It assured that he would not depart as an outcast. Much like the light he yearned to kindle, his spirit was rekindled. Undaunted, Matthias reached for a scattered matchbox atop a dilapidated table. Resoluteness etched onto his countenance, he sparked another match. Its wavering flame pierced the gloom, conjuring playful shadows upon the cellar's decaying opulence. The air clung heavily with the scent of dampness, intermingled with a subtle metallic tinge of blood. It was as though it were ingrained into the very walls. Matthias stood at the epicenter of it all, encircled by the spectral tendrils of light that ventured into every nook, revealing the room's withered grandeur. The hearth shed light upon the tapestry of Matthias's life. Stains of blood intermingled with strewn tools of dissection, bearing witness to the grim labor that had unfolded. The weary state of the instruments mirrored Matthias's exhaustion. Empty wine bottles lay scattered across the floor. They were remnants of indulgence within the melancholic ambiance. These emptied vessels, stripped of their contents, had served as a futile endeavor to drown the horrors lurking beyond the cellar's confines. Positioned beside Matthias, nestled within a crate meant for firearms, rested his sniper rifle. It was a tool holding the might to either deliver salvation or escort him from this realm. Upon the chair adjacent to him rested a yellow plaid cotton blanket. He draped it around himself, waging a battle against the chill. Messiah lit a candle on the table, its glow casting a soft light upon a nearby metal medkit box. Matthias used the box to steady his trembling hands. The persistent tremors were a relentless reminder of the months he had endured within the crucible of battle. Yet amidst the unyielding chaos, he found solace in the belief that he was stronger and more resilient than the demons that haunted him. As he finished wrapping his hands and tightened the cloth, he took a deep breath, knowing that in a few moments the trembling would subside. Taking a moment to absorb his surroundings, Matthias saw the cellar coming back to life. Slowly, the spark of life returned to his eyes. A grey cat ran across his feet, disappearing into a pile of trash. His gaze wandered, settling on scattered papers and books. For the first time in a while, a smile graced his lips, and he murmured, "I'm glad I'm not the one to tidy this up." Glancing at the mirror, he noted his civilian attire and overgrown hair, desperately needing a shave. Addressing his reflection, he mused, "You don't look your best, but this beats the trenches." Checking his watch, a silver timepiece with a vintage charm, he noted the time, 10:42 a.m. Matthias looked up to find the cat staring at him. With a hint of amusement, he remarked, "In 18 minutes, my furry friend, this ordeal will be over, and after that, it'll be a lot harder for you to find food." He shifted his attention to a cloth covering the table, revealing a tantalizing loaf of freshly made bread. Casting a glance back at the wrapped package, he couldn't help but muse. "Was this your intention, my little friend? It appears the men upstairs can keep everyone else out, but not you." Pointing his finger to the air, he added, "You know what this moment needs? Some Chateau Margaux." Taking the lantern in hand, Matthias carefully scanned the floor. His gaze remained fixated on the multitude of scattered bottles. Moments stretched on as he diligently sifted through the debris, his determination unyielding. Finally, his eyes lit up as he discovered his desired treasure, Chateau Margaux. Its label was tarnished by grime and concealed beneath a veil of dust. With utmost care, he cradled the bottle in his hands, his voice carrying a mix of weariness and longing. "Apart from the Spanish flu, a few germs won't hurt anyone." Yet, as Matthias proceeded to embark on his search for a corkscrew, his movements became more deliberate, the weight of the moment sinking in. His hands traced the cluttered table, gingerly navigating through the tower of discarded items. At last, his fingers brushed against the cool metal of the elusive tool. Pausing for a brief moment, he glanced back at the rat, his companion in this desolate space, and murmured, "Perhaps you too would appreciate a taste." However, a sudden silence engulfed the cellar, and Matthias' voice trailed off into nothingness. His face froze, his eyes widening with an unspoken dread, as if an apparition of death had materialized before him. In that moment, he saw his son, the child with a wide smile and pure innocence emanating from him. The child took 6 steps and said, "Look what I found, Daddy," presenting him with a human eye as green as his. As Messiah dropped the bottle, its breaking perfectly matched the timing of the moment. Matthias' mind finally broke. Tears began to pour from Messiah's eyes, and he yelled louder than any moment of his life, saying, "God, what have we done to you? Why are you doing this to me? Why do you hate me?" He rushed to put his hands on his son's shoulders and said, "Tell your mother I'm sorry. I started drinking to ease the pain. I failed both of you." He glanced at his son to see this time it was his commander taking his place. Mustering a smile, Heydrich said, You'll be able to tell your family these things soon enough, and unlike mine, I'm certain that they would be able to forgive you." He put a hand on Matthias' shoulders and said, "You can't kick my ass if you go insane." He stutters for a moment. I... Certain that I could if I really lost my mind," Matthias managed. A small chuckle came from Heydrich, reassuring him. Matthias noticed Heydrich's dirty clothes and questioned, "Was there an attack?" "No, my son. Something far worse. A mutiny," Heydrich revealed. He also noticed the stack of newspapers in Heydrich's hand, and Heydrich had to make room to set the newspapers on the table. "I love what you did in the place. Heydrich said. You know me, Order. I'm going insane. Drinking or working hasn't left me much time to clean, Matthias replied. Heydrich pulled out a pack of cigarettes from his pocket and lit one with the candle. He offered one to Messiah, who also lit his cigarette with the candle. The moment passed as the cigarette did its work, calming their minds. Matthias said, "No pipe." Heydrich replied, "I sold it for the cigarettes." Matthias's jaw dropped. Heydrich responded to his expression. "Yes, the Allies' blockade has been that effective. Soon we'll be living as the rats if we do not hunt them to extinction first." He took another puff from the cigarette. "It's the reason why the mutiny happened. The damn men tried to rush the food bank, thinking that I was lying, only to have reality hit them harder than any Allied advance ever could." Messiah, extinguishing his cigarette, picked up one of the newspapers. The headline read about a string of animalistic murders occurring worldwide. Matthias asked, "So it's not the series of murders that caused the mutiny? Do the majority of them even know what's going on?" Heydrich buttoned up his jacket, walking towards the fireplace. He said, "It's so cool down here, it can kill a man." Matthias's facial expression visually conveyed a "no Sherlock" sentiment after hearing Heydrich's words. Heydrich looked at Matthias and said, "Most of the men don't know about the murders, or if they do, they think it was the enemy or they simply do not care." A slight hint of anger edged his way onto his face. Then he added, "I'm certain that most of them don't know about the flu." Matthias breathed deeply, a great look of disappointment and grief on his face, and asked his commander, "Have you really read the report?" Heydrich's face now mirrored Matthias's. He said, "Yes, son. It's like nothing I've ever seen before. I've seen men ripped apart like animals, but not like this. It's like the brutality of an animal, but something just as smart and capable as us." Matthias asked him, "Does it have to be us?" with a nervous chuckle. Heydrich glanced back at him, a very false robotic smile on his face, and said, "Yes, one day this mystery will be solved. Maybe not in 10 years or 100 years from now. It will be solved as it always is. Or," he paused for a moment, "God has other plans for us, and I hope I don't live to find out what it is." His expression relaxed into something more natural. Heydrich continued, "Now, let's go back to our work. You said we still had some of the bodies from the trench before the Allies took over and blamed us for the whole damn thing." He took a moment to calm himself down. Matthias pointed to the metal door and said, "We had one left." His finger began to tremble, fear gripping his eyes. A remorseful look crossed Heydrich's face. Heydrich softly spoke. "Your son still haunts you. He hides in the cellar, right?" He grabbed keys out of his pocket, looking at Matthias. Their eyes met, desperation palpable on Matthias's face. Heydrich took a deep sigh and said, "I will retrieve the body." The steps of Heydrich echoed with each stride, piercing the silence of the room. Heydrich opened the metal door and entered the room, which seemed to be nothing more than a dark abyss. Heydrich's entrance rendered him invisible from Matthias's sight. A moment passed by, and slowly Matthias' son materialized, staring at him in the darkness, holding his rifle with a blank, emotionless expression. He aimed the rifle at Matthias and said, "The damn thing is the bane of my existence." Matthias felt something crawl on his leg and saw the pesky rat that had haunted him. He looked back at his son, the eyeless man standing behind them, half of his face gone and the damn smile that stretched ear to ear. He darkly chuckled and said, "You're going to be one hell of a shot, just like your dad." His son pulled the trigger. He heard a massive bang and he screamed as loudly as he could. He closed his eyes and clutched the chair tightly, bracing himself for the pain that would never come. Opening his eyes, he saw Heydrich with his hand on the doorknob, and the door was shut. Heydrich held the body over his shoulders. The body was well wrapped in white cloth and was about the size of your average male. Meeting Matthias's gaze, Heydrich said, "It's all right, son. I'm here." In a soft tone, he added, "Now, then, let's get to work." Matthias stood up and cleared most of the contents from the table. He lit a few more candles. Heydrich gently set the body down. "Do you have his report?" Heydrich asked. "Yes, sir," replied Matthias, handing him a piece of paper. The content of the report read, "Military Field Report. A date, November 9 to 1918. Time, 22/18/20. Location, Western Front. Subject, Incident Report. Unexplained casualty. Summary. On Bangsa 9 to 1918, at approximately 2020, a military patrol discovered an unresponsive male individual located at Catacomb 17 in the enemy trench. Upon initial assessment, the individual showed signs of severe injuries consistent with an animal attack. Medical assistance was immediately requested, and the individual was transported to the Red Cross Frontline Infirmary for further evaluation and treatment. Description of casualty. The deceased male has been identified as Alan Morgan, 31 years old, rank corporal of 27th American Cavalry. Witness statements. Statements from witnesses indicate that Alan Morgan was part of the counter-defence against the Central Powers when he was separated from the group. He was found in a distressed state and unconscious, with visible injuries on his body. Physical findings. Upon closer examination by medical personnel, it was observed that Alan Morgan had sustained multiple puncture wounds on various parts of his body. The wounds appeared to be consistent with animal bites, but displayed unusual characteristics. Medical evaluation. In the medical facility, Dr. Alexander Schmidt attended to Alan Morgan and reported witnessing peculiar symptoms during the examination. The wounds displayed an absence of typical infection or inflammation, and no significant traces of foreign substances were detected. The cause of Alan Morgan's deteriorating condition remained unidentified. Preliminary assessment. Given the unique nature of the wounds and the unexplained deterioration of Alan Morgan's health, there is a possibility of exposure to unknown pathogens. The situation does not conform to standard animal attack cases warranting further investigation. Recommendations. Bataille 1. Isolate and secure the area of the incident to prevent any potential spread of infection or harm to other personnel. 2. Conduct a thorough investigation into the circumstances surrounding Alan Morgan's patrol and potential exposure to hazardous agents. 3. Request assistance from specialised units or medical personnel with expertise in dealing with unexplained medical situations. 4. Inform higher command and request additional resources if required for further containment and analysis. Conclusion. The circumstances surrounding the demise of Alan Morgan are highly unusual and require immediate attention. The peculiar nature of the wounds and rapid deterioration of his health suggests the presence of unknown factors. A comprehensive investigation is underway to determine the exact cause of Alan Morgan's death and safeguard the well-being of all personnel involved, ruling out any connection to bullet wounds or the Spanish flu. After reading the report, Heydrich gently put the paper down. He removed his glasses and began rubbing his eyes in frustration. He muttered, "I guess they're coming up with the same conclusion. Not the flu, but something I thought it was." He glanced at Matthias, who was now holding his rifle in his hand and glaring at Heydrich in a very accusatory way. "Humour me, sir," Matthias said. "You look a lot younger than you have the right to look, very physically strong for your age. Hell, you lifted that body with no problem." Matthias's face held a mixture of sarcasm and fear. "You are very human, aren't you?" Heydrich smirked, his voice laced with disbelief at the response. "I take health very seriously and have worked very hard to keep my body in the working condition that it is in." Matthias aimed his rifle at his commander and said in a very threatening tone, heavy with scepticism, "Maybe you're just a vampire."
This is the man of your dreams, Homo somniorum. Hope you enjoy this chapter's reading experience.